Something I've started to realize over the years as I've gotten a little bit older, not old, just a little older, that there are always bands, and I guarantee each decade has it, that come on strong, hot debut album, couple hot singles, and we think to ourselves, man, this band's going to be huge. They got staying power. And the next thing you know, they slowly fade away. For me, there was a band in the mid-2000s that absolutely embodies this trend. And that was the band, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, music lovers, especially my rock music lovers. That's right, thank you. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that for me right now. Hit that button. That'll absolutely help me and this channel grow. It'll help YouTube put me out there to a more vast audience. And that's exactly what I'm here to do. So please, do that for me right now. If memory serves me correct, I'm thinking back, as I lived in Houston, Texas from around 2003 to 2007, that span of time, I remember a lot of bands coming out, on the local rock station, and, I'm pretty sure it was the same around the country, possibly around the world, that, they were good. They came on strong, very hot songs, and you really thought to yourself, man, these are some awesome bands. And some of them stuck around and still go strong today, and some of them you've kind of forgotten about. For me, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus is absolutely one of those bands. When they came onto the scene, they came on very strong. And I got a couple stories about their debut album, and especially their debut single. But we're definitely going to have fun diving into this band and what the hell happened to them. The Red Jumpsuit Apparatus formed in Middleburg, Florida in the early 2000s. Some would say it was while Ronnie Winters and Duke Kitchens, two friends, were sitting in class together in 2001. That was when the band actually formed. But really, I think that was more of when the idea was formed, because it wasn't until 2003, and that's where most stories point to as the actual formation of the band. That's when other members actually came in to round out a full band. And the name of the band, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, the guys have pretty much said this, and you can read it, you can find it on the internet. The way the name was actually chosen was the guys just threw random words at a wall and picked from those random words. And you can kind of see that that would be the way to choose this name. Otherwise, these guys were creative as hell, because the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, who the hell would have ever thought of a name like that? Well, these guys came up with it. So after the band actually formed in 2003, they spent the better part of the next year and a half, upwards of 2 years, writing songs and trying to get themselves out there, get noticed. They didn't do a lot of touring around the country like a lot of bands do, the local club scene, touring around the country in these small venues. They didn't do a lot of that. But there was a difference. 2005 would be the year that they would actually start to get their feet wet. In 2005, they were working with Vision Sound Studios in Orange Park, Florida. They helped them release a 6-track EP. They really helped them promote it. They were releasing it to other countries. They were releasing it all around the United States just to try to help these guys get some attention. Another thing. Nowadays, you got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got all these different platforms. You didn't have all of them in 2005, but one thing you did have, you had MySpace. There was tons of bands that got a lot of recognition on MySpace. The Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was one of those bands. They started to get noticed. They even got noticed from Virgin Records, because a guy named Jason Flom took notice of these guys, actually got them into a real studio and helped them start to record their debut album. So in 2006, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus released their debut album, Don't You Fake It. And I definitely remember hearing their lead single on the radio. It was the song Face Down. I'll tell you right now, when I heard Face Down on the radio for the first time, this is exactly what happened. I said, who the hell are these guys, and where do I buy this album? I eventually did buy the album before any other singles hit the radio, and one more that we're going to talk about in a minute, when I listened to the whole album, and a matter of fact, I listened to it the other day just for the hell of it. Before I had any idea to do this video, I just got on YouTube, I looked up, because you can look at the whole album, and I played the album from start to finish, and it took me back to 2006, 100%, because I just got out of high school. I was one of the first out of my group of friends to get their own place. I had an apartment, and I'd bring all my friends over from high school, and everybody loved this song. I had already bought the album. I put it in. I played Face Down because it was a song everybody knew, and I just let it play through. Man, this album, this song was absolutely amazing. It didn't take long, because by November of 2006, the band had already exceeded selling over 500,000 copies and was certified gold. This was huge for these guys. I mean, coming from a small town in Florida, not actually, taking the route that the conventional route, I would say, that most bands take, and actually spending a couple years touring, they started to take hold of social media, because it wasn't as big at the time, but they knew it was getting big, and MySpace was absolutely growing, and it just was a gateway for all these other platforms that we have today. So they took that route, which most bands are taking these days. I think that was very, very smart of them. And it was kind of one of those groundbreaking moments because they were one of the first bands to take hold of, well, a platform to get themselves noticed. And this debut album was huge. 2007, they were on this tour called the US Take Action Tour. It was one of their biggest tours. Well, it was one of their first big tours they actually got to go on. And they were playing alongside some big bands at that time. My Chemical Romance, Rise Against, they were absolutely huge in 2007. Now, this tour was meant to help, advocate for preventing youth suicide. And not only that, they were growing so fast, and it was just a breath of fresh air to see this band so young, so vibrant, and, well, having so much success right out the gate. To be on a tour like this, young people were taking notice because they were loved really quickly. Not only that, I'm a big, huge Madden fan. I was a lot bigger at that time. I loved video games. I still own consoles, but it's hard to get into them like I used to when I was younger. But I try sometimes, but I quickly get bored. But Madden, I was a huge Madden fan from day one, from the original PlayStation all the way up till now. So Madden in 2007, I remember In Fate's Hand, which was one of the songs off Don't You Fake It, was featured on Madden 07. Not only that, they had songs featured on Saints Row. There was an ATV game they also had songs featured on. And then the movie Never Back Down, which was huge that year. Their song False Pretense was featured on that. And like I said before, a song I was going to talk about, it's this song, False Pretense. Before it ever got big, before it ever actually was a single on the radio, before it was featured on this movie, when I bought the album and just listened to it, Face Down was the only single on the radio at the time. That song I gravitated to the most was False Pretense. I loved that song. Something about it, it's a great song. And there was no surprise when it started getting featured on movies, and it became one of their best singles on the radio, along with the song My Guardian Angel. Man, these guys, they were like just a little bit older than me. It was like seeing my friends succeed, and these guys were doing badass. I mean, it seemed like from 2006 through 2008, these guys, they couldn't be stopped. They were headlining shows. They were supporting other bands at their shows. I mean, bands like 30 Seconds to Mars, The Used, Medina's Lake, Boys Like Girls, Scary Kids, Scaring Kids, Seyo Sin. A lot of bands, they were gaining friendships, and they were doing a hell of a job. And they earned it because they did, well, they paid their dues a different way than most bands before them. But they still did it a way, which was going to be a trending way moving forward. So you got to give them a lot of credit. They even performed May 3rd, 2007 at Fort Rucker in Alabama. Enterprise High School was in the state. It had got destroyed by a tornado. They were doing a benefit concert to help gain money to rebuild that high school. Man, these guys were awesome. Not long after that, in 2007, they also released a special edition DVD and CD for Don't You Fake It. I mean, man, at that time, they could do no wrong, and everybody loved them. In 2008, they released their second studio album, Lonely Road, and this album had a lot of build-up to it because it was supposed to be released way before it actually was. I mean, their label, there was issues with them getting paid, doing appearances, they were getting pulled from tours. There was a whole bunch of crap leading up to this album finally being released, and when it was, their lead single, You Better Pray, I remember hearing that on the radio as well, and I thought, okay, their first album just had staying power. It led all the way up to this album, and to this day, that debut album is their best work by far. But, you wanted something new. And these guys had they got on MySpace all the time. They were performing. They'd perform acoustic sets. They'd perform, some songs that, had got cut from albums, stuff that they had been working on. And this song, You Better Pray, their lead single, was an awesome song. It was a breath of fresh air. It was something new by them because you were craving that because the guys had already pretty much cemented themselves in the rock community as being a fresh, new, up-and-coming band. To support this album, they went on tour with bands like Shine Down, Framing Hanley, and Tickle Me Pink. I mean, they had already associated themselves with some huge bands. And what kind of sucked was Lonely Road would kind of be their peak, which really sucks. What sucks is after Lonely Road was released in 2008, they wouldn't release another album until 2011, Am I the Enemy? And then it'd be 2014 before we got another album, which was the album 4. And then in 2018, we got The Awakening. If you don't know those albums exist, I don't blame you. I didn't know they exist. And it really sucks. As a rock fan, you like to take pride in knowing that, there's bands that most people haven't heard of, or you only know them for something that was so huge, like Don't You Fake It. And you kind of have a sense of pride knowing that, hey, they had other stuff that didn't get big on the radio, but it's even more amazing if you go and listen to it. I kind of feel bad because I can't say that. I have went and listened to these other 3 albums, and man, I just could not gravitate to them like I did their first 2 albums. I mean, Lonely Road had some other great songs on it, not just You Better Pray, but it didn't live up to what Don't You Fake It did for me personally. And, most people say, if you gravitate to that big debut album or that big album that stands out among the rest, that you're not a big fan, which I'm not a big fan of the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus per se, but I am much in respect for them. But yeah, I mean, those other 3 albums didn't even come close to their first 2, which brings us to why we're talking about them today. But as I'm doing this video, it is April 20th of 2024. Now, tomorrow, April 21st of 2024, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus will be where I currently reside, which is in Dallas, Texas. Unfortunately, I don't live in Houston no more, which, God, I'm trying to get back there so bad. No disrespect to Dallas and all these crazy Cowboy fans. But anyway, they will be here tomorrow to perform, and they got a rest of their tour to do throughout the country. But it's small venues. It's nothing big, nothing like what they were doing from 2006 through 2008. And such a big part of me wishes I could go see that show. But I got kids now. I got a family. I got a job. I got a wife that works. I got so many factors that I'm using, well, yes, as excuses to not go see them. But the kid inside me, the kid from 2006 that was young, 18 years old, really, really wants to go see them, mainly just to see if they play the songs that resonate so much with me. Mostly the entire album, Don't You Fake It, and the album Lonely Road. Because if they played anything after that, I'd be just standing there. And I've been to a lot of shows in my time. Even when I was young, my friends were big metalheads. We'd go to metal shows like Cannibal Corpse, Hypocrisy, Gwar. We'd go see some crazy ass shows. And I knew some of the songs, but half the time I'd just be standing there moshing just for the fun because I didn't know the songs they were playing. I wasn't into it like the rest of the people around me. But it was mostly just for fun and just to be around the friends. And it would be even more awkward now to go see the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus and be hearing songs I have no idea what they are and not being able to sing along or enjoy the moment, because that's not a big band you go see to start moshing around. You're going because you enjoy the songs and you want to enjoy the show, have some fun, which I guarantee they'd play some of those old songs because that's where they can hang their hat on the most. That's where they had their most success. So I could guarantee I'd count on hearing some of those. But unfortunately, I won't be there. But I'm glad to know that the guys are still touring and, they're still doing what they love. Sometimes success is there and it goes away and you never reach that success again. Sometimes you eventually, years down the road, even have greater success. We've seen that with bands. I hope one day the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus can find some more success like they did in their early years. Will they? I don't know. We never know. But I really hope they do. As a rock fan, I really hope it, as a person that has a lot of respect for what these guys did and the way they got themselves into the business. But until that day comes, if it ever comes, we can always hang our hat on what they did initially, which was absolutely phenomenal and amazing. But anyway, it's not a long video today, guys. I just wanted to point that out. If any of you remember this album, Don't You Fake It, and this band, the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, especially if you're my age, I know you remember it. And that was a real cool time when that album came out, man. It was such great music back then. I didn't realize it till I did this video that there was a lot of great music that came out in 2006. Rock music. But anyway, till then, go out there, take care of your friends and family. Do something amazing, man. Do not be afraid to put yourself out there. If there's something you want to do, if you never try, it's never going to happen. So I encourage you to go try. And until next time, take care of yourself. I'm out.